Welcome to the D1 Diary. I'm Madison Donnelly.
And I'm Skylar Schellmeyer.
This podcast is to give current and former athletes at the collegiate or professional level the light to share their individual and personal stories about life during athletics and everything behind the scenes.
Although the landscape of college athletics is ever changing, we want to give these athletes the opportunity to discuss the real thoughts and effects of what happens inside the minds of collegiate athletes.
Today we are interviewing one of my long-term best friends, Logan Culver. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. A little bit about Logan. She was a 4-year member of the Michigan Hawks ECNL travel soccer team. She played for East Kentwood High School for 2 years. She helped them go to the 2013 and 2014 conference title. In 2016, she was voted top high school player of the year in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Out of 17,000 votes, won the 2015 Futsal World Championship, and then went on to play D1 soccer.
Yes, Logan, thank you so much for coming on. We're really excited to have you. I'm excited to hear your story. And I know you've stayed in my house, but I haven't talked to you much, so I'm excited. So to start things off, I know that you have siblings, is that correct?
Yeah, I have an older sister, younger siblings. The youngest is 21. She just graduated from college, or is about to graduate. And then the other two are twins, and they are graduated, both 23.
Did you guys all play soccer?
Yes, we all did in some capacity. 3 of us went to D1 schools to play, and the other 2 quit, kind of after high school.
A lot of you played soccer, all of you played soccer. How was that? How did you guys get started in it? Did your parents kind of just throw you in it, like all together?
So my parents, I think, just wanted us out of the house. There were so many of us. I mean, between the 2 of them, raising 5 kids was no easy feat, but they just wanted an activity that we were good at, passionate about, get us going, whether that was music, soccer. I've tried almost every sport there is. I'm terrible at every sport there is except for soccer. My mom played growing up, but my aunt did play over in the UK for a bit. Through college, she went to Boston and then played in the UK. So it was a huge thing when I started. My mom was actually one of my first coaches, and then just kind of went from there.
So I didn't realize your aunt played over in the UK. Played pro, semi-pro. Can you talk about that?
It was at the time. So my parents and my aunt just turned 56, but she was 23 post-college, went over to the UK. I have no idea what team she played for. I just remember she was playing at like the highest level you could play for outside of the women's national team, which was, I would assume, some type of pro. But that's the reason why I was number 7. That was her number.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. And then I know you're really close with your high school and college teammates. Can you just describe the culture? Because I think they were 2 different experiences.
Oh, those were night and day. High school, it was just like everybody was best friends. You've known them since you were little. It was the camaraderie with that team. It wasn't necessarily about competition. It was more about like you built best friends for life. They were sisters in the time. And I think that was different too, because you're going through puberty or in a different stage of life. Lots of life changes are happening, and these are the girls you're closest with. So high school, it was good. When I think of soccer and I miss soccer, I miss my senior year of high school. That's the team that I think about. But college was different because, again, you're getting, I think you said like I was voted top player in Grand Rapids. Didn't even remember that. But basically, you have 30 of those on a team in college, and you're all competing. It's, people are nitpicking, they're angry. It's a very competitive culture. And ultimately, you're all still trauma bonded, but I think it's to a different degree.
Was that a hard transition for you, going from this team of best friends to them being dropped off in Georgia where there's $2 beers and a mechanical bull?
Oh, don't even get me started. Me and that mechanical bull were better friends than anybody else. Don't you even talk about that. No, I mean, the transition for anybody, I think, would be hard. Like I said, it's one thing to go from being top player in your area to everybody knows who you are. They know who the Culver kids are. You go from this huge group of family and support system to, oh, well, now you're 14 hours away. You're on a little island in a city, and you're hanging out with the top of top players in different cities as well, different countries even. I think the hardest bit is you go from hearing yes and how amazing you are to it's a very humbling experience very fast.
That's such a unique perspective that I feel like it's not really talked about a lot. Like I would say my experience is kind of not the complete opposite, but I'm going back to what you were saying about your bonds with your teammates or how close you were with your teammates and like how in high school it was all fun and games, like you were just having fun with your best friends, and then in college it was just uber competitive. I almost feel like mine was completely flopped because in my high school, there was girls who just didn't take it seriously enough for me, or they just weren't good enough. So like made it not very fun for me. In college, it was more like, okay, we're all here for a purpose. We're all here for a reason. Was there any of that in college for you, or was it seriously just like attack mode?
No, I mean, at first it's attack mode. I mean, anybody knows the phrase fucking freshman. You come in and you're a fucking freshman. But when you think about it, like for me, my biggest difference is I'm playing with girls that I've grown up with. And Michigan was a bit different. I don't really know where you're from, but we had small districts. And even though we're all in the same radius, Grand Rapids is like the same size as Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm now. But Charlotte, North Carolina is just one big district, whereas Grand Rapids is all these little subsections. If you went to a different high school, you were in a different district. So you're playing with kids that live right down the street from you, and you've known them since you were 5 years old. Even if they're shit at soccer, their parents are going to take you out for ice cream right after the game. So you got to keep a cool face. But I did have that though in college. Any interaction with anybody, it was the first thought was going to be, oh, it's negative. Oh, she looks like a bitch. Oh, she's not very good. Why is she out here? And that was a lot of it. Like you ask any of my teammates, their first thought of me, their first impression was, oh, she's a bitch. And it's like, I'm really not, just have an RBF. So that made it pretty difficult for me coming in, is trying to fight back some of their preconceived notions. Because there's a lot of hype when you're going into college of like highlight reels, these are her stats, and they're expecting the most. And I'm not that.
I think that's definitely a popular struggle. Coming in as a freshman, obviously adjusting to new teammates and new roommates and getting comfortable with each other. But I know you had two international roommates. So can you talk about how you managed those different personalities off the bat?
Yes, we had a rule you had to room with teammates, and my class started out with 7 of us. So we had 2 from Colorado, 1 from Michigan, also from the Hawks. There was myself, 1 from the Netherlands, 1 from Dubai, 1 from Bermuda. So our team and our class was actually the first class that was picking up internationally. And all these girls knew each other in some capacity. I didn't want to room with the girl from our home league, but that's just, we had that talk because we knew we'd be sick of each other. So it kind of just left me and my roommate for all 4 years, actually, one of the rare ones you'll love her all 4 years. She's from Dubai, and she actually went to boarding school here in the States for a bit beforehand. But it was just so weird because I didn't know that. I thought this chick was just living on the other side of the world. I had to talk to her at certain hours of the day. She'd be like, why are you messaging me at 2 a.m.? I'm like, we got a room. Do you have the microwave? I'll bring the fridge. That's what we were talking about. And I'm at one point, I think I complimented her on her English. I was like, you speak really good English. And she's like, I'm from the UK. I learned that lesson the hard way. It just goes to show, from going Grand Rapids to Macon, Georgia, there's so much more out there.
Are you still friends with her today?
Yes. She was actually one of my closest friends all 4 years. We shared lockers, roomed together all 4 years, did every single class together. Actually just had a dream with her in it. So I texted her today. I said, I'm sick. I was having dreams inside a dream. So I was like, dude, I had a dream that we were in our freshman dorm. You were eating all my Chinese food, but we were just laughing.
Wow, Skylar, I haven't had a dream about you lately. Maybe we have to step our friendship up.
That's crazy. Yeah, Madison, I'm not gonna lie, I have not had a dream about you either. For real, we have to have more of that brain connection, I guess. I do have a follow-up question though. Back to when you were talking about your team culture and when you first meet somebody and your first thought is negative about them. Like, I feel like that's pretty natural, especially coming into a new environment. However, do you think that kind of stemmed like top down? Do you think it stemmed from your coach? Oh, we're going to judge people. Oh, we're going to be mean. We're going to be rude, like whatever. Or is it just kind of a natural thing that kind of occurred?
No, I think it was more natural. Our coach, I will tell you, bless him, he didn't know his head from a hole in the ground in terms of like, he thought everything was always perfect. Everybody loved everybody. There was no issues within the team. Even when there's team drama, he's just like, you guys love each other. And we're like, yeah, Sure, whatever you need to sleep at night. But no, it was much more of like a natural thing. I think it is more of like a women's thing or a female thing. I think that a lot of times we're judging. We're like comparing ourselves right off the bat. Like I looked at somebody and I'd be like, your cleats are trash. She's probably trash at soccer. Little do I know she's playing 3 times a day over the summer, and then she comes in and practices after practice, and that's why her cleats are trash. And I find out that this girl is from Bermuda and she's one of my closest friends. But I came in with this whole like, she's dumb. She doesn't know what she's doing. And she came in thinking I was the biggest bitch there was on this planet and that I was too stuck up and thought I was overconfident.
How did you guys overcome these stereotypes about each other and end up super close and respectful teammates?
Trauma bonding until you go through a losing season or even just a season in general. I think it took my class through preseason before we started getting closer, but it took a full season. So in November, when everything wrapped up, and that seemed to be a repeating cycle. That's when you can start going out. That's when you can start drinking. Like we all had our first drink together. And next thing you know, we realized, oh, she's kind of cool. And it's kind of what took off from there. But that was repetitive all 4 years because even when I was a sophomore, freshmen would come in, I would give them the time of day. They were so focused on trying to come in and be the best. And then season ended and I'm like, wow, you're like my new best friend. I'm so glad I took 5 seconds to get to know you for once. And that went all the way through the senior year. And even at alumni weekend about 2 months ago, we all made jokes. And it's not just me, it's like my class. They thought we were the scariest people in the world when they came in. And then you just buy me a drink and we're gonna be best friends.
So I'm coming at this angle from softball. So like our seasons are completely flipped, right? Like I play in the spring. So I actually never thought about that, how you guys as freshmen, like you enter in July, right? You report in July and then you're immediately in preseason, then you're playing and you're like, I don't know who these people are. Like you're really guarded defensive almost. And it's not until that first off season until you're like finally getting to know people where I come from, it's like I come in, it's off season for us. We're not doing anything. We're drinking a lot, we're partying, we're just grinding out, we're trauma bonding, we're doing all the hard workouts, and then we play. So it's like I had this 5-6 months to like fully understand the people I was playing with before actually playing with them. So I think that's really unique, and I never even thought about it until you said it. So wow.
Soccer girls are catty. No offense, but like you think about it, you're following, you're a junior, senior in high school, your picture's getting put on blast by this new university. You're reposting it, your family's reposting it. And if you're already on that team, all you're seeing is this girl. She has a good following. Everybody's posting her. She thinks she's hot shit. We're going to humble her when she gets in. And we actually have a practice that starts out, they got rid of it after my freshman year, but they called it a little freshman smackdown, where I'm talking, we're getting clotheslined in the middle of practice. It's pouring rain because it thunderstorms like crazy in the South in August. And these girls are like, stay down. I'm getting clotheslined and they're like, stay down. Clothesline is when you take somebody out there running forward, like at speed with the ball, and somebody stops your entire body. So you fall backwards or forwards, the ball's still going. So they hit you hard enough that it stops your body and you hit the ground. And it usually comes where you can't see, where you're not looking. So in my case, I'm running forward towards goal. And one of our outside backs, I'm playing center midfield. I'm in the middle of the field. Somebody went out of their fucking way to come and take me out, like from the side. Imagine a little bear hug tackle, and I just hit the ground. This is my second practice ever. We just did our fitness test, and I look up and, oh my God.
Was the girl that clotheslined you, is this a girl that is on your team in a scrimmage, or is this on the opposing team?
This is on our team. This is a senior. She literally looks me dead in the eyes. It's pouring rain. She goes, stay down. I'm like, I'm going to fucking hate my life here. Call my parents and want to go home.
Why did the coach allow this behavior? Because I personally didn't experience this, and I've also never heard about it before.
The SoCon is more, it's not, I'm not going to say it's D1. It's still considered good soccer. We do keep up with a lot of the bigger schools. We've played a lot of bigger schools. But at the end of the day, it's a bit more scrappy because it is missing that technical work. So our coach specifically, he would pride himself on blue collar effort. So being the aggressors, even if we were losing, he would be proud if we really got in there. Now, they had to be clean fouls, but practice was also a place to get anger out.
I feel like even in softball, we kind of have the same thing. When we were playing Arizona State, we would call them a scrappy team. They were still technically sound. They could still play at a high level, but we knew that we were going to get like shoved around the bases. They were going to slide into us. They didn't care. Like they were just playing hard, playing scrappy. So I get what you're saying, but was this a specific day in your program that the upperclassmen decided like, okay, this is the day?
Yeah. So this all stopped my freshman year. And I will say my class made it. There are only 3 of us ended up graduating out of that class of 7 because there were really big personalities. People left, yeah. But the 3 of us by my end of my sophomore year decided like, listen, we are building a different culture. This is not how it's going to go going forward because the way that we came in is only going to get worse. And I think a lot of people can say too, like our age group and below, with every year you go below, the sense of entitlement gets bigger and bigger, you know? And that's a whole other topic I can debate, but we wanted to build up a team. And if you start to tear down personalities like that, you're just going to have nothing left at the core of some of these people. But seniors, my freshman year, they all just got together and they said, fuck the freshmen, we're going to fuck them up at practice today. Again, all they see before we're coming in is post after post. This girl's from the Netherlands. She's going to be amazing. This girl's from Dubai. She's fucking wealthy. This girl's from Bermuda. That place isn't even real. I'm telling you, like, they're going line by line on each of us. And they're like, this is what's wrong with all of them. This girl's so pretty. Fuck her. We're going to take her out. That's just how it is. After that, though, right, we had our freshman hazing. It wasn't really hazing. But what they did is they were like, okay, sorry, it was a rough practice. Come on over. We're going to have a movie night. Us stupid little freshmen go skipping on over to the seniors' apartments. We're like, oh, my God, they want to hang out with us after they just kicked our asses like 5 ways to hell in the last like 2 hours. We go over there and we're laying on the floor. They made us all lay on the floor. We should have known. They had us packed in like little sardines in front of the TV. And there's a couch in the background. They're all sitting. Everybody's like kind of like in go mode. And all of a sudden, lights turn off and you hear, get the fuck up. Hands behind your back, face the wall. Do not look. Do not speak. One of the girls spoke. They shoved her to the ground, made her do 10 push-ups. We're kind of like trying not to giggle because we're like, we can't take some of these girls seriously. But at the same time, I'm shitting my pants. I'm like, I've got antibiotics. I've got to go take my birth control. I don't know. Like, I don't know what I had to take, but I was like, I got medicine. I got to get home and take this. And they're like, shut the fuck up. I was like, hey. So they put my hands behind my back and they're walking me. And it was me and my roommate from Dubai, Haley. And they're walking me out to the car and they shove us into the back of this trunk. If I remember, there's like 2 or 3 girls in each car while everybody else is getting to this destination point, and they're just driving around recklessly through the city. They're like weaving in and out. I feel like I'm fumbling in the back seat. I'm like, Haley, I'm going to shit my pants. And she's like, I already did. So we're freaking out. And all I remember is somebody was playing Eminem, and I kept hearing, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? And I was like, I can't take this seriously anymore. I go, can we turn on something else? And they're like, shut the fuck up. I was like, okay. So our field, we had this field, and on the right side of the fence, over by the benches, there's like all these trees, and they redid all of this the next year. But I didn't know that's where we were. I thought I was walking barefoot in the woods. I thought they were going to just fucking leave me out there, feed me to the wolves. And they're walking us, and it's probably like 10 minutes. I'm like hitting tree branches. I'm stepping on shit. I'm like, at this point, I'm about to start crying. And they sit us all down in a circle, and all of a sudden they start giving like this I love you speech. And I'm like, what the fuck did we just have to go through all this? I'm talking, once we got through the woods, they brought us onto the game field. Didn't know that's where we were. They sat us at the center circle of the field. They're all standing around us. And all of a sudden, one of the girls breaks out and she's like, I just want to let you guys know we love you so much. We're so happy that you're part of this team. Like, you guys have been absolutely crushing it between the fitness test, between the practice. You guys are taking it like champs. And everybody's chiming in their little hype words of how great we are. And they're like, you can take your blindfolds off. We took them off and they hand us our jerseys. And I was just like, so you guys took me out 12 hours ago because you think I'm the biggest bitch, but you're going to sit me down here at midnight knowing that we have practice at 6 a.m. I just walked barefoot through the fucking woods, and you're going to sit me down and tell me how much you love me and how great I am. We canceled that. We were like, no, there's easier ways to do that.
That's literally hazing one-on-one. 101. Like, holy shit. I have chills thinking about that. Is crazy. Was there actual shit out of your pants?
No, no, but figuratively, if there was, it was there. It was terrifying. And honestly, all we heard from like those seniors when we were like, fuck you guys, that was so scary, haha. Like, yeah, we're all laughing, patting each other on the backs, but like, all we heard from them was like, previous years we had to do this. And before we had to, and it was just always like, you guys are lucky. And that's kind of how it felt that whole freshman year. And I'm like, we're not doing this again.
First of all, I applaud you and your class for recognizing that and being like, no, that's absolutely not happening. And second of all, like, has this ever been reported or been talked about?
No, we got our freshmen back in a different way. So we did freshman graduation. And but it was more of like a celebration. So when you were a freshman in your spring semester, it's kind of a year-end party. We will get you guys signs. They're usually funny. They're supposed to hurt your feelings a little bit, but it's just kind of like, where can you find me? And at the bottom it says some boy's apartment at this time on this day. Like it's just like a ha ha, like we know you. But then we buy all the alcohol. We buy all the, we set up all the games. It's like scavenger hunts. We make them run the yo-yo, but there's drink stations on both sides. The yo-yo fitness test is a 20-meter run. I can quote the intro for you guys if you need. So we would do fun games like that. And it's like not considered hazing, but it does make you as a freshman feel a little bit more embarrassed because you're performing these games in front of everybody. But at the end of the day, you're having fun. You're out here drinking. You're going to buy your cover into the bar at the end of the night. And you made it. You made it through the hardest year of your life. So it was never meant with any malicious intent. And there's also a clause if you didn't want to drink because you don't have to, and you can stop at any point. If you're uncomfortable, you can stop. That was the one thing because we were so uncomfortable as freshmen.
Definitely better than being thrown in the back of a trunk. Can you expand on, I know you touched on the yo-yo, but any other preseason stressors or fitness requirements to play in the fall or spring?
We actually had the highest fitness requirements out of anybody in our school. Because again, our coach, if we weren't going to be good, we were at least going to be fit. So my freshman year, we had the Manu test, which is the 100 yards down, 100 yards back within a minute. And the run down gets progressively faster while your run back gets slower. So ultimately you end up sprinting down. You have to do 20 of those to play. So by the time your last run is 15 seconds down, 45 seconds back, and you got to go. That one is good for endurance. That one was actually probably the easiest one out of all the fitness tests in my mind, just because it's like you're constantly running, it's interval running. The next one was the yo-yo test. And we did the one that it's just level 1, 2, 3, 4, like we did at Hawks. It was never this 1.1, 1.2.
Is this like the pacer test?
Yes, in a sense. So you run 20 meters out, run 20 meters back, and then there's a little walk section, and then in 10 seconds you run again. And my freshman year, you had to get a 32, which not bad. In Hawks, we ran a lot more than that. We were running 40s and 50s in that team. So it wasn't bad freshman year, but as it went up throughout the years, by my senior year, girls were required to get 42, 45. We would have a fitness packet over the summer, but it was never anything that was like, I'm going to die today. But we were still expected to like go out and practice right after the fitness test. That was brutal. That was fucking hard, especially with like the year prior. That was the fittest I've ever come in with like my junior season. Being as fit as I was, doing as much as I did, and then all of a sudden you break your foot and you start at ground zero. That was kind of the cherry on top.
So going back to fitness tests, I know you said you're your most fit junior year, but I see that you actually played your most matches sophomore year. And I know a lot of people think the yo-yo test doesn't actually translate. It's really hard to translate a single fitness test to replicate a 90-minute soccer game. So what are your thoughts on that?
And I think the fitness truly comes from the endurance of what you do over the summer, whether those are the long runs or playing in legit games. It gives structure. It gives expectations and structure to a group of girls that if you let them be for 3 months, they're just going to drink the whole summer. That's it.
Besides fitness, was there any other specific rules that your coach imposed on the team that you personally disagreed with, or collectively all of the players disagreed with?
Our coach is a special man. He's a big old Greek man. He loves his family. He loves God. He loves us. And that was like it. But Sometimes there was a very difficult distinction between father figure and coach, and it would come with like at the expense of some respect. And in that sense, my freshman year, it was dry season. We were not allowed to drink. He sat us down at practice and he said, we had a curfew. We had a curfew of like 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We had to be in bed by those days, and coaches would come around to our dorms and check if we were in bed. This is on a Monday night. We had practice at 6 a.m. They want to make sure we're in bed following instructions.
Just to clarify, this isn't a Christian school, right? This is just the coaches going out for roll call, making sure you guys are asleep.
Correct. Yes. He sat us down, and I remember walking down, all the seniors are like, you better just shut your fucking mouth. The whole way down, they're like, they're grabbing you on the back, and they're like, do not speak, we'll handle this. So we're all sitting in the bleachers at the practice field, and our coach goes, you have 5 minutes to own up to if you've been outside of curfew, where you were and what you were doing. And one of the girls goes, Coach, I was studying in the library. I had an exam today. He goes, can you study in your bed? Great. Okay. Next girl goes, we were drinking a glass of wine at dinner. It was my birthday. And coach goes, it's dry season. She's like, well, it's my 21st. And he's like, dry season. Anybody else? And, there's like a couple of girls saying, like, one of them was like, oh, we went to a movie, but the previews didn't start, so we didn't get back in time. But we got back as soon as we could and went straight to bed. And he's like, why didn't you go to an earlier show? It was psychotic. It was. And when you're in a losing season, and I don't know if it's the same for y'all's school, but our school coaches were hired on a 4-year contract. So every 4 years, they would renew your contract based off of the performance of the team. We hadn't won a SoCon championship in 4 years. His job was on the line. And we were in a losing streak. We had not won a single game after the first 2 games of the season. We barely scratched it out that season to get a winning record. And my freshman year, I'll never forget, we were at Chattanooga. And we were tied up 1-1 at halftime. I scored the goal right before freaking half. My roommate, Haley from Dubai, who never sees the field, got in. She crosses the ball in the corner with her left foot to me, one-timed it upper 90 left corner. I'll never forget it because we were all cheering. We're all fucking excited. And I'm like, hell yeah, we tied it up 1-1. Chattanooga had their coaching change that year before. They brought in really good players. They were on a losing streak many, many years before that. So to be tied with Chattanooga that year seemed like the end of the world. It was the equivalent of tying a military school. Little did coach know, if he would have seen the next 4 years, Chattanooga was a really good team. They finished top of the conference many times, but we were tied with them at halftime. We get into the locker room and he goes, Haley, my roommate, why the fuck are you crossing the ball with your left foot? She's like, I just assisted. He's like, don't ever do that again. We're like, oh fuck. He looks at me, he looks at me, he goes, you'll never fucking step foot on the field again. I go, I just scored. Like, what did I do? And I'll tell you, the number of times I heard that phrase from my coach's mouth over the course of 4 years, he'd tell me I'd never see the field again and then put me in 5 minutes later. It was all bark, no bite. But he says that at halftime, the team's all pissed off all of a sudden because I didn't realize Chattanooga's been shit the last 10 years. Nobody knew that they were going to be like top of the conference for the next future 4 years. It's the last 3 minutes of the game. One of our seniors fouls a girl. Coach throws me and my roommate in because he's like, all right, Hail Mary, let's get him back in. And one of our seniors fouls the girl, and then they start the free kick, 45 yards out. These girls are running all around us. Me and my roommate are like, let's just zone defend. Why are we going to sit here and chase them around? Like, just if it's in your area, get it out. Well, one of the seniors trucks both me and my roommate, like runs straight through us. We both hit the ground. Our 2 girls run free and score. We lose 2-1. Our coach did not let us speak to our parents after the game. Haley's parents flew in from Dubai. I think she got to talk to them for like 2 minutes. I don't remember if my dad was there or not, but he took all of our phones away on the bus. We were not allowed to have our phones for a 7 or 8 hour drive back to Macon, Georgia. We were allowed to have our laptops out, but he made his son walk the aisle to make sure that we were not doing anything other than homework, that if we were seeing messaging or doing anything other than schoolwork, our laptop would be taken away. So that was the most miserable time. We were bribing his son though with candy. We're like, I need to text my dad, please don't tell. And I give him like my cookie. Again, losing season, jobs on the line, true colors come out with a lot of that. It's funny because when we start having a winning season, everything switches up. Whatever you want, you got it. Reason his contract got renewed, my senior year, we went on a 16-0 winning streak out of nowhere. It's very technical, very good. Just everybody on the bench played. It was a very deep team, but that's what I'm saying. You need one good season, your contract's renewed. Now, granted, I still talk to him. I think he's a great man. Again, he loves three things. He loves soccer, he loves his family, he loves God. And that's about it. But there are times where it's like questionable. It's like, are you going to do what's in the best interest of the team, play the girls that need to be played, or are you going to have a lineup stuck in your head and continue playing this insanity role of playing the girls that are not doing well for the sake of they had one good season a season ago?
I think unfortunately you're touching on a common theme across all sports. For whatever reason, sometimes it's favoritism, sometimes it's ego, and the coach wants to stick to the lineup they thought was going to do well at the beginning of the year. I would say that's pretty typical. No coach can get it perfectly all the time. However, what is not typical is I remember you at one point saying for the betterment of the team, the girls were not allowed boyfriends. Was this losing season?
I was losing season. I was losing season. Yeah. So obviously nobody fucking followed that rule. But he was telling us all my freshman year, we all needed to dump our boyfriends. Like me and my long distance relationship. I was like, hell no. But he didn't want to see any text messages. He didn't want to hear that you were talking to anybody. And he was like, no, no boyfriends. No boyfriends will stay the night if I hear anybody's in those apartments. And I'm like, yeah, well, you guys are already doing a partner room checks. No hiding this one. That's how watched our dorms were. And it's a co-ed dorm.
I think that's insane that this was a co-ed dorm and your coach had access to the dorms late at night, getting to wander the halls, make sure you guys are tucked away in bed. I don't know why there wasn't a security guard or this wasn't reported, but that's crazy.
It was just more of a knock, like make sure you're in there. We didn't have to open the door or anything. But the biggest one I think he was concerned for is Halloween, because our team fucking loves Halloween. And we're not your typical girls that get out. And I mean, nothing wrong with that. I did this last year. You get up and get dressed up real cute. However you want to dress for Halloween, be as slutty as you want. Looks great. Our team, we love dressing ridiculous. We had like Doodle Bob, people dressed up as coach. That was what we wanted to do. And I guess there was an instance a few years previous where girls were dressed up for Halloween. Coach came around, did dorm checks, and the girls were in their Halloween costumes under their beds. And then they all go out. And Halloween for our season is right when conference starts, like the conference tournament. So I think that's why it was like so big.
Was this ever brought up between the girls? Did you ever think about revolting against some of these rules in place that the team disagreed with? Obviously you did with the boyfriends, but other than that?
You talk about it, you're just complaining. It's something you signed up to do. They're giving you money. You should be there, and you're there for an education, and you play, you don't play. They don't realize that this is a sport that some 7-year-old or 6-year-old picked up one day, fell in love with. So it's a painful thing sometimes when you think about it.
Totally. And I'm kind of making this connection now, but I'm almost seeing it when you were talking about your coach in a losing season and like his contracts on the line. It's almost like people forget that, yes, this is a business, but these are people's lives. This is their passion. This is their drive. This may be their reason to live. And I definitely think, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I work at a mid-major, and what I see is people forget why they do their jobs. It's all business, but that's not how it should be at all. We should be not catering to student athletes, but uplifting them, making them the best version of themselves. You know, it makes me really, really sad to like hear your story. I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
No, it's okay. It's one of those things that it is very much so a business. It is very political. It's about who can donate the most money and who has the biggest big name and how can we get more viewers? It's all of that. And at the end of the day, when you are an athlete and you are injured or you are not getting the minutes, you feel useless. And it is a very painful thing to go through, because that is the biggest, I think, truly, in my opinion, that's the biggest adversity that you can go through as an athlete, is an injury, because you're losing an identity. Again, I was 7 when I started playing, fell in love with the sport of soccer. So you're going to tell me that for the first time in my however many years, 20 years of life, that this is going to be the first time I can't play the one sport that I want to do.
And then on top of the coach, you know, his job being on the line, if I remember correctly, weren't your individual athletic scholarships reevaluated every year based on your performance, which is not true for every division?
Ours was reevaluated, but it was only to be reevaluated in a positive manner unless you disobeyed team rules, which only primarily was just drug use.
Okay.
So, yeah, ours, they were reevaluated every year. So you could only go up, and most times as a senior, as a gift, like give you that final bump. But there were instances where girls did fail a drug test, and if you failed it on more than one occasion, he had the rights to say, listen, if I'm going to have to cut you for 25% of the season, I should be cutting your scholarship by 25%. That's how that goes, which I kind of respect that.
If you can't, stay clean and do your job. Yeah.
You can't put the bowl down for 3 months. You've got to.
And then just circling back, I know you mentioned you had a long-distance boyfriend. Can you just talk about being an athlete and having a long-distance boyfriend? I believe he was an athlete as well. So just how you balance that among everything else in your life.
Well, clearly that didn't fucking work out. Yeah, I mean, in the moment, he was opposite season as me. He was baseball, so his off season, he was able to come to my seasons, and my off season, I was able to go to his. It was long distance to start, right? He was one of my closest friends growing up, and then he stayed in Michigan for the first 2 years of the relationship. I couldn't drive. I didn't have a license. My parents, they were not going to shell out hundreds of dollars for me to go visit him. I think I saw him like 3 times in those 2 years, but holiday breaks he would come visit. So that's kind of how we spread that out those years. Then junior and senior year, he moved a little bit closer. He was about 2 hours.
Okay, so the boyfriend didn't work out. Was there anyone else in your life that you would say maybe strained your relationship with soccer?
Yes, I would say somebody very close to me strained that relationship with soccer for a very long time. And it is something that has been a discussion over the years where it was never the intention, and we have gotten closer. But the issue is growing up, it was never good enough, and it was a constant push to be 100%. So whether that was dieting or running or going to soccer practice, Madison, I'd go to soccer practice, train with my team, and then train with yours right after. And I would do 2 practices a night for 4 nights a week, 4 hours on the road each of those nights, and still get up, show up for 0 hour for music, 6 a.m. to high school, not get out and repeat that. And it was this constant sense of I was not good enough, the shaming that came from how big I looked. When I look at these pictures, I was the tiniest person on the planet, caused a lot of body image issues and the self-esteem. And when I tell you, like, you try to go out there and you play a sport, you don't feel good about yourself, it's going to translate. Things are going to be off in the game, and there's a reason people say look good, feel good, play good. And there was several times where that was not the case.
I also feel like it is so much harder to be a female athlete than even just a normal girl in high school and college, because you are working out so much. Like, there is not much more you can do. And if you are unhappy with your body or someone else is telling you there's something wrong, you just kind of feel helpless because 1, you're not in control of your workouts, and 2, you physically can't work out more.
There would be nights where I was told, like I said, my schedule was very strict. Leading up to D1 soccer, there was a lot of things that went into it to get you there. It would be you're getting up at 5 a.m., you're in the car by 6 because you have school before school. I'm not out of school till 3:30. I get home, I have a snack, but even then I shouldn't be eating before soccer. I get in the car for 2 hours. Madison, I'm asking you for your trail mix because I'm not allowed to have snacks. Get to practice. Not only do I practice for my hour and a half, I practice for the second hour and a half, 3 hours of training later, get back in the car 2 hours later, it's midnight. I am tired. I got 5 hours of sleep. Not allowed to drink caffeine because it'll make you big and grow hair on your chin or on your chest, whatever they say. I still have to get my extra runs in. So sometimes after school on my way home, I would be told to get out of the car 2 miles away from my house and run. It was never enough. And that was probably one of the most painful things to go through, because when you talk about that with that person today, they don't see it that way at all. They only saw it as, I got you to where you needed to go and you succeeded and now we can be friends.
Also, I think you recently found out you had PCOS, which obviously is a diagnosis that fluctuates your weight. So you're just trying to meet these fitness tests, be an athlete in general, and you have a whole other element of trying to manage your health. And if you're not taking care of yourself properly and not getting enough nutrition regularly, obviously that can impact you in big ways.
Yeah, PCOS is not for the faint of heart. So obviously it's polycystic ovary syndrome, and it can cause weight gain. It causes a whole slew of other symptoms. It can cause, right down to you could still have kids, but it may be a lot more difficult kind of thing. And it affects a lot more than just your weight. It is a hormonal imbalance, and it is a very frustrating thing. I know their first line of treatment is birth control. And when you're trying all these new birth controls in college, there are some that just don't work. If you've ever had the next one on and you love it, great, good for you. I've heard more horror stories than good with it. I'm too scared to get an IUD. I just take the pill because it works. But I remember having a cyst burst my sophomore year, right before President's Dinner. And that was the first time I ever experienced one burst. And I was, again, my ex-boyfriend was there. Thank God he was there because he was the only one there. I started puking everywhere. I had a fever. I couldn't stand up. He thought my appendix burst. I thought my appendix burst. They get me to the ER and they're like, oh, you just had a cyst burst. And that's when I kind of found out the slew of these issues. But the weight gain was probably one of the hardest bits because it's like, no matter how much you do, how fit you are, you'll never look the part. And people want people who look the part. And that was something I was extremely insecure about and only recently started. It would have been like January of this last year where I started to really love myself for who I am and what I look like, because there's always going to be somebody that loves you for who you are, what you look like. And I will say soccer played a huge fucking role. And that person played a huge role in how much I truly loved myself in those years.
Would you say it was easier to, figure out who you were and instill that confidence in yourself after soccer because that pressure had been taken off? And how did you go about that?
So when you're not at soccer, you're not around the girls that all look the part. They're all beautiful. Like, I love them. I don't care what you look like. And if you're my friend, I'm going to love you no matter what. But when you're not around it consistently, like I said maybe earlier, women tend to typically judge, and it's just something you compare yourselves to other people. And that was something I had a huge issue with. And that's something I always heard growing up is, oh, you see her legs? Oh, do you see like how fast she runs? And it's this constant comparison game. So when I stepped away from soccer and really took a break away from it, I found that I was still kind of struggling with issues. But when I started to move out is when I started to feel a lot better about myself. Under therapy, talked through a lot of the issues of childhood and relationship with food, and it's not necessarily the relationship with food that you might think, like most people would think, like, oh, you're overeating. It was the fear of eating sometimes. I would eat, but it would be this fear in the back of my head. Kind of getting myself away from that, getting into therapy, being on my own, being able to take over control of what I want to eat, what I want to do when I want to do it. It was like a whole new self-love.
That's great.
You don't have to say who this person is you're talking about, but how is your relationship now with this person? Are you still in contact with them, or are you completely removed? Or are you?
Oh, yeah. I'm in contact with them. I talked to them probably like every other day, and they were actually there for me through like a really tough period there a couple months back. But like I said, it's the perspective of they did everything they could for me in that time. And I think it came from a numerous of places of not getting to where they wanted to go in their own athletic career to, we are pouring so much money into you and you don't look the part that we want you to look. And it's a different time, right? And trying to talk about it now is just a can of worms that's not going to really heal anything, because what I need to heal is myself. At the end of the day, they said what they said, they did what they did. And going forward, it's like, do we want to open that can of worms, or do we just want to be better? Because clearly you bring it up and they're like, I don't recall that happening. And I'm like, yeah. You don't recall dropping me off at the neighborhood entrance 2 miles away from our house, telling me to run home so we can get in and go to soccer.
That's that's hard on you, because that's confusing, because you remember it so vividly, and then you have that person telling you it never happened.
It took me a long time to not give a fuck about what other people have to say. Because when you think about it, people are inherently selfish, and they typically, I think people are good, but I think they typically are going to think of themselves first. So when you're in a room full of people, they're going to look to themselves before they're looking at other people judging. And that took me the longest time to realize that I can sit in this room and know that not a single person is looking at me thinking that this girl is obese, because that was never the case. That was never the case. But that's what it was going through my head so consistently for so many years.
Which, when you are constantly told that, unfortunately, you start to think that about yourself, usually generally, but especially before the age of 25 and growing up throughout high school and college. And I guess just to wrap it up, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self before entering college soccer, because I think that was probably your most challenging time being a soccer player, what would you tell her?
I would probably say put you first. I'm somebody who typically will put the needs of other people above my own. I struggle with knowing when to turn that off. So if I were to have put myself first, my own feelings first, I would not have let people walk all over me in the way that I did, and not just all over me, but my confidence. If I put myself first, it would have been a lot more confident Logan, and I think that would have been a lot better those 4 years, and it wouldn't have taken me as long as it did to learn that.
Email us, DM us, reach out to us, and we look forward to next week. But thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate all of you. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of the socials, and just follow along with our story. Okay. Bye.